I think agents should be really, really confident. I think they should be, but not complacent. I think they should be confident, but they should also be confident in delivering whatever message needs to be delivered to the consumer to get their property sold. If the consumer doesn't get that, if the homeowner doesn't get or understand that message, then losing an instruction that's wrong is not a problem. But of course, we have come out of a market where a lot of people have been conditioned to that they don't have to do anything to make good money. And all of a sudden the conditions have changed. But you can't rely on that. So you either grow your share of the movers and the renters, the landlords, or you have to charge more for the privilege. My personal view would be to try a bit of both.
Welcome back to week 6 of the UK Property Stats Show. And today I'm joined by, it doesn't come much bigger than this in terms of the property game. I'm joined by the man himself, Mr. Iain White. Thanks for joining me today, Iain.
My pleasure, Chris. Thank you for asking me along.
No worries, mate, no worries. Just for anyone that's been living in a cave or under a rock, Iain used to be a big director at Romans, and now he's set up his own business in the last few years, guiding and supporting some pretty big names in the industry. He's a bit of a mover and a shaker. He basically is Mr. Estate Agency. Thanks for joining me today, Iain. What I want to do is talk about the property market. So for anyone who's never been on one of these shows, what we do is we talk about the property market, what's happening, and we might as well just dive straight in for some absolutely gorgeous stats. How do you like the sound of that, my friend?
Yeah, I'm in for the data. Come on, show me. You are known as Stato in the industry, so come on, do your worst.
Right, and here we go. So we'll just pull this up and we'll go start off with the first one. There we go. And you can see by this slide here that this is the number of listings. So we're talking week 6. Week 6 in terms of this year was Monday the 6th of February through to Sunday the 12th. Okay. And then we've compared week 6 with all the other years. So once you look at that, let's have your thoughts on this.
Oh, well, my thoughts are obviously after the chaos that was caused by various events, we're sort of returning to somewhere near normal levels. I don't know, but my sense is that slightly changes from region to region in terms of volumes. But my clients typically are seeing more instructions come to the market and certainly being asked out to do more valuations.
Good stuff. Well, I mean, what we're going to do is we're going to actually compare what's happening locally in the regions later on. So we start with the national figures, we then move on to the regionals, and then we pick a town at random, a town which is close to your heart, Iain, because it's just on your doorstep. So let's kick off and let's look at the next set of stats, which is the number of new instructions. So this week we are on 32,557. The rolling figure in terms of the last 4 weeks is 30,000. And interestingly, this number has been growing since the new year. So in the first week, we were at 16,900, 25,000, 32, 32, 32, and now 33. Listings are growing. Is this a good sign?
Look, yes, the answer has to be yes. It's a good sign from the point of view that it means more sales. I mean, it's very, very unlikely that more listings will mean less sales. Simple as that, really. I mean, the estate agent's problem is nearly always solved by more listings. The market is now being benevolent and producing more listings. There is a tide of a certain type of person wanting to list. So, yeah, if you've got the listings, you've got a chance of getting the fee. If you haven't got the listings, you've got a problem.
This is right. I mean, in terms of moving on to the average price, one of the things which we're going to delve into when we get to the sales is the average listing price. Now, the average listing price this week is 417,000. Last week it was 424. The week before 409. But these are pretty high numbers compared to what's actually selling. Is that more bigger houses coming on the market? Because it can't just be down to overvaluing, because overvaluing has been around since you were a boy and had some hair. Hey,
Are you saying that I did overvalue? And
no.
I've still got hair, but just it's thinner a little bit. Yes, I think it is. I think it is a sign that family homes are coming to the market, because I think the people that are being, now being urgent about wanting to sell are the people that are feeling the squeeze on the cost of living in big houses. Maybe older people where the family have left the zone and left the nest. And they're just rattling around in a big old house, and other factors are pushing the family budget, and they're saying, right, well, let's get rid of the big asset, let's move down market. Probably a move they would have undertaken a few years ago or in a few years' time. Just the circumstances and the perfect storm have come together for it now. So this is definitely not an indication of rising house prices. This is an indication of people with slightly bigger properties coming to the market in bigger numbers than before.
But interestingly, we're going to have a look at what's actually selling. There is a slight mismatch of what's actually selling versus what's coming on the market.
Yeah,
this trend. Now, this is, I tell you what, Ian, you are so honoured. You are honoured. This is the first time. This is because I get feedback, and someone said, "Could you give us the cumulative figures?" So these are the total number of listings each year since 2017.
So you've added up the whole of the 6 weeks.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So
apart from 2019, we've got the biggest year on our hands right in front of us.
Absolutely. So and again, we're going to have a look at the number of sales cumulatively, both net and gross. Yep. But there's no complaint here. There's got to be this stock. You need to be taking your share of the stock here, don't you? What tips would you give to estate agents to get more stock at the moment?
I think my first tip would be to make sure you get the right stock. So, if a client has unrealistic expectations, either jettison it from your inventory or don't allow it into your inventory, which is slightly perverse in terms of sort of gaining stock. Be firm in your beliefs, but ultimately, in terms of getting stock, you need to be visible. I think in times of slight uncertainty, people are more likely to turn to brands they know or feel they trust. And those brands will typically be the ones that are visible, whether that be social media, whether it be board presence, whether it be at local events. Be visible, be present, be the voice of reason, be the expert in the room.
I mean, it's the same old stuff, mate, but why don't you think estate agents adopt these basic principles that we all know work?
I think more and more are adopting the principles, but they're doing it in a very benign way. So it's almost like an exercise in filling in a dot. That's a Romans term, by the way, for those Romans that are watching. But it's like ticking a box to say I've done it. Doing it with intent to connect with your audience is very different from doing it to say I've done the job. Being enthusiastic on your video post, writing that, taking time to make sure the content of your letters and your marketing material and your billboard posters and your blogs is right, is where it's at. But of course, we have come out of a market where a lot of people have been conditioned to that they don't have to do anything to make good money. And all of a sudden the conditions have changed. And that's causing a bit of conflict. I mean, we're seeing, I don't know whether you've got the stats here, you probably haven't by agent, but we know that the gap between a certain number of agents at the top and everybody else is massively growing. So this upshift in listings is not being equally distributed across the UK estate agent.
You reckon it's the bigger boys that are taking this? And when you're saying the big boys,
not bigger. I mean, the size of the agency is largely irrelevant. Some will be big, some will be small. But the people doing the right things, the better estate agents, the ones that are connecting with their audience, constantly showing their expertise, doing the right things, behaving in the right ways, recruiting the right people, having the right training, they are taking a bigger and bigger and ever increasing slice of the estate agency commission pie at the expense of the others.
Yeah. Price changes. So we've got some price changes here. Price changes are presently on 17,894. This has been steadily growing from week 1 at 13, 16, 16, 16, 17 and 17. These are some big numbers. Let me just pull up the number of properties available for sale at the moment whilst you talk about this, so we can compare what the level of stocks are.
Look, I don't think it's any surprise that the number of reductions is going to be growing. I would expect that to continue to climb a little bit. You've got the old stock that maybe came onto the market under previous conditions that needs to be addressed and either removed from the market, or the vendor understanding that letting it might be a better option than selling it, or reducing it to today's market value. So that's pretty common. And I think the estate agents are still getting used to delivering a message that might not be quite the same price that they would have done a few months ago, and therefore they're bringing stock on at the incorrect price, and therefore understandably at some point the vendor and or the estate agent of those that definitely want to sell reach the conclusion that they need to change the price point to attract buyers. So I think this will continue to grow and then flatten off as the new norm becomes the new norm, i.e. the old prices become a distant memory.
Well, we've got okay. So the satellites have now come back, Ian, and we've got the stats in. Now, interestingly, whilst I've only been manually been able to do this, I've been able to secure the number of available properties and the number of properties sold subject to contract in estate agents' pipeline going back to 2017. Now, I've only just got that in the raw data, so it's going to have to be sorted out and put into the graphs, but I've for future reference. But at the moment, there are 475,000 properties for sale in the UK, and 67,598 of them were reduced in the last month, which is 14.2%. So that's just under 1 in 5.
1 in 5 properties are reducing their price.
No, not 1 in 5. Do apologise. I'm mixing up. You know, 1 in 7. Sorry, I mixed my. So 1 in 7 properties reduced in the last month. Think that's enough?
Well, sales numbers will tell us, because if we've got more instructions available for sale and the sales numbers are below, then the answer is no. If the sales numbers are cooking along at a reasonable old rate, the answer is probably yes. I don't think it's about the number of reductions either. I think it's about the amount of properties reduced by. Because I don't know whether your stats take into consideration somebody that might have reduced twice or 3 times in the period. I don't know how it works.
It's whenever it triggers. So if you reduce twice, it will count twice. I don't think many people reduce in the same month, though, do they? Let's look.
Depends who their agent is.
It depends who their agent is. Yes, I've seen some absolute shockers over the year. So number of price reductions this week was 16,900 compared to the rolling 4 week of 16,440. Interestingly, the average price of property coming down. So this is the asking price of the properties that are being reduced, and the asking price is 396, and this has been pretty this is it from other years, but it's been pretty static throughout the last of Jan. Again, I think not much to say on that one before we move on and look at sales.
I'm not so sure I understand it really. So I would have expected the average price of the property being reduced to be going up on the grounds that the average price of the property for sale is higher at the starting point, if that makes logical sense. But so it could be that they're taking on higher value stock but reducing the smaller stock, which seems a wrong.
Okay, so remember, to me. So this is 16 to this particular graph is 16 to 23, and this is the average asking price of the properties that were reduced in week 6. Okay,
yeah, I think it's too shallow a window to have any meaning. I think you'd need an accumulative number to really give.
Again, we can take feedback and do average quarters. Let's move on and talk about the sale agreeds. So these are gross sales, Ian, and we've got 22,363. This is the number of average sales that have taken place on week 6. We are going to come on to talk at the accumulative figures in a second for gross sales. So you would expect 21 and 22 to be higher, wouldn't you? Although isn't 20, I mean, week 6 COVID hadn't hit in. That was the Boris effect, wasn't it?
I think that was all sorts of things going on, but I think the issue is that you need to wipe out 2021 and 22 as being your barometer. They're not a fair and reasonable indication on the marketplace. The only worrying thing from that particular graph, to look at it from my perspective, is the blue line at the end is at the moment in a trend down. The question is at what point does it get arrested and go back up? Because if volumes of instructions are picking up and reductions continue at a pace, that curve will turn very quickly back up.
But again, remember, we are talking standalone weeks here, from
Yes.
standalone week 6 in 23 versus 22. We're going to come and talk about the cumulative figures in a second. Number of property. Oh, sorry. Hold on. There we go. Hold on. Messed it up. Number of properties sold versus running 4-week average. We don't tend to spend too long on this one. Just nice to see a short-term range. Now, this is interesting. This is the average asking price of the sale agreeds. So for the ones that sold in week 6 in 23, the average asking price of the ones that were sold was 347. In 22, it was 348 of week 6. Now, my issue here is this: the average asking price of the properties selling 347, and that number has hardly changed since Jan 1. See, the average property that has sold since Jan 1, the average asking price has been £345,050.
Yeah, I think that's fairly logically explained by the fact that the bigger properties are coming on the marketplace, and they are propping up the real fall in house prices from a statistical perspective. So there is no doubt that house prices have dropped back a little bit. Not anything like what the doom mongers say, not anything like what the press might have you believe, or certain commentators. We've probably seen, I don't know, in most regions, I would hazard a guess, maybe 3, 4, 5% drop off in house prices. But if you then have got a consistent flow of higher value properties coming onto the market, the 5% drop is offset by the increase in the average price being in the marketplace. So I think that's a fairly natural phenomena, and it is what it is.
But again, just a big tip for you boys and girls out there in estate agency land. There is the average asking price of the ones that are coming on the market is 417,000. So there's a 20% difference this week, 20.21%. But this is weird because we're going to look at the regional figures. The numbers. This is primarily driven by London. Outside London, it's London is a different.
Yeah, I think you have to take London out of the overall national stats to give a real indication, because it's a very unique place, London. It's driven by exchange rates. It's driven by lots of other things that don't really affect the UK as a whole, because it's not reliant on overseas buyers using the pound as a vehicle for value for money or not. So I probably would ignore any London stats unless I was a London agent and it was directly affecting me.
Indeed.
If I was outside of London, and if I was inside of London, I would ignore the national stats and use London stats only.
Well, we're going to have a look at those in a little bit. These are the cumulative gross sales year to date. So from January the 1st, or whatever the week started, for the first 6 weeks in 2023, we've had 112,000 properties sell, which, when you compare it to 17, 18 and 19, very similar at 113, 114, 118. But again, like you said, 21 and 22 were silly years. And I think there's a lot of agents that are comparing themselves against last 2 years, when in reality you should be going back to your CRM and looking at your late teens figures. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, but if you want to get your personal performance to the levels you've become used to because of the boom years of the COVID market, then you have to devise a way of either charging more or taking a bigger percentage of the market that is there. I don't think you should be prepared to go back to 2017 numbers, but I think you should be prepared to look at 2021 and say that's just not the norm. It's not a realistic barometer. I don't know, but it'd be really interesting as you continue with this stats series. I think the gap between the COVID years and this year will start to shrink. Others are commentating that it will increase. I genuinely believe if listings are coming into the market, one assumes they're from people that are genuinely keen to sell. A majority of those will find their price point and they will end up in transactions. So for me, if the volume of listings coming onto the market is increasing, I think the volume of sales will increase. I think there's also an increase in the volume of properties that are being sold off market. I don't know I don't know whether they're statistically meaningful yet, but there is a lot of stuff being done by agents using creativity to create deals. So it's going to be an interesting time. But it's for you guys in estate agency land. If the number of 2023 stays consistently behind the previous 3 or 4 years, earn less, or charge more, or take a bigger piece of the cake.
It's so simple yet so effective. Sales fallen through. Well, let's move on to this one. Sales fallen through is presently standing at 499. It's been hovering for the last month at around the 5,050 mark. So pretty steady compared to different weeks going throughout. That looks like they're going down. But again, in 21 and 22, there were more sales, which means there were more fall throughs. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as a percentage of the overall pipeline, I don't know what that actually means. You might have those stats, but they're starting to ease off now. The tree was shaken when we moved from the old mortgage market to the new mortgage market. The tree was shaken when you had deals that were reliant on old mortgage offers that could no longer be fulfilled, and of course, it made a huge difference to the ability to actually fund the purchase and pay the monthly payments. That tree largely, I think, has been shaken. And now I think it's about new deals coming together with the new mortgage situation, with the new rates at the new pricing. And of course, we'll still have an abortive rate because, of course, we will. But I don't think it'll be anything out of the ordinary unless something ridiculous happens between now and the end of the year.
No, we saw an uplift in sale fall throughs when we had the Liz thing, which and they've been slightly higher in terms of percentages. We're going to come on and talk about the fall through rates in a second in terms of the percentages. They are slightly enlarged, but just minor amounts, nothing silly. These are the net sales, so that's gross sales less fall throughs. Again, standalone for the week, which we're on 17,000. We've had some amazing 20, 21, and 22. But if you look at the other years, very similar of 18s and 19s. I particularly like this graph, Iain, which is the cumulative number of net sales by the end of week 6. And we're on 82,000. When you look at the other years, we are slightly behind on this. So this is net sales.
There is no doubt that we are slightly behind. I think the year started slower, but it feels to me from the communications on the ground floor that is now gathering pace. But again, I think you'll find that 82,556, whether it's a small number or not, is not being divided in the same equal measure that it was back in 2017. I think there are agents taking a much bigger share of that 82,000 and feeling quite chuffed with themselves, and you've got people taking a smaller share and are really in bother. They're really in trouble.
You're absolutely right, Iain, with regard to your first point. In week one, if we're taking 20, 21, and 22 out of the equation, in week 1, the number of net sales was very similar, 23 to 17 to 19. But then what happened is in weeks 3 and week 4, in 17 to 19, the number of average sales was kicking on to the very late teens, whilst in 23, we've been looking at around more like the mid-teens. But you're absolutely right. For the last 2 weeks, 23 if you look at them as standalone weeks, has caught up with 17, 18, and 19. But obviously, it was it's still 10,000 below because those weeks of 2, 3, and 4 in the teens were better months. So that might level itself out. But again, I think it's just an important thing. And again, boys and girls, if you think of any graphs or if we've got the stats, we'll put them out there. This was a suggestion that was put out on Property Industry Eye. And again, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone in Property Industry Eye for showing this show. We know we get a lot of feedback from it, and we do appreciate your good and constructive comments. Gross sales as a percentage of listings. Again, we're sitting on 66. Again, this is a Lee Wainwright graph. He liked this graph. In terms of how that compares to, we've been hovering around the late early 50s to early 60s. So we've been the number of gross sales as a percentage of listings has actually been rising. That's not bad when you consider that listings are rising as well. But we did say that. I don't know if this is a graph. I don't know if this is a metric you like, Ian.
Well, I like the fact that it gives you a good indication, but I also think it shows agents the opportunity, because the difference between 66.86% and even getting it to 70 will solve all the problems. We just need to communicate with our owners what they need to do to be in the percentage that sells rather than the percentage that doesn't. Maybe stop bidding for instructions. So we've got loads of opportunity because we're not selling 100% of what we list anyway. So there's massive opportunity there. But what it does show is that, it's just another stat that really indicates we're just moving to normality, not problem.
Right. Let's now move on to fall throughs. Now, we haven't got the running total of fall throughs yet because I haven't had the time to upload them because it is quite a manually job, but we do have the standalone cells. So in last week, 22.35% of sales, fall throughs as a percentage of sales. So that's not that 22% of properties fell through. That's the number of fall throughs divided by the number of sales. Pretty raw figures, but I think it's a nice indication. But again, notice how that's been growing over the years. Percentage of sales that actually fell through. Well, again, the rolling 4-week average. So that it's coming down a bit on that. Again, just jump in when you see anything you like.
Isn't it? I mean, it's just too high though, Chris. As an industry, we're overseeing a 1 in 4 failure. This is bad deals being put together, the wrong buyer being chosen, the due diligence not being done, not looking at products that can tie in buyers to sellers, reservation fees, gazelle, that type of thing, maybe auction opportunities. This is the industry's problem to solve. Consumers not going to solve it. Legislation could help, but in reality, we fail 1 in 4 times after we've done all the hard work, and it has to be because we're choosing the wrong buyer for the wrong reasons and not doing our due diligence.
And they're not, the valuers are not getting the forms filled in on listing. We're not instructing solicitors before until the sale is agreed. We're getting the forms filled in with the wrong names. We're going to factory conveyancers. Nothing wrong with factory conveyancers, but again, everything is methodical, and a day here and a day there, and all of a sudden, that's why our average time is, in the early 20 weeks. I mean, there are sales progressors out there like ASAP, and again, this is not an advert for them, but Richard Megson's both a friend of ours, Ian, whose average sale is 12 weeks.
Well, his fall throughs, are half this. So the business argument not to look at that type of platform is well, there is no business argument. The business argument is you should at least have a look at it. I would say it's negligent not to, but the whole it's like Stephen Brown. He's got a lovely term about marginal gains. There's lots of little things we can do to bring that number down. One of them is not to market properties that are inappropriate with inappropriate needs. If a client's not serious, and the industry needs to solve this problem because it's a lot of time, effort, and energy, and it's very, very depressing for a member of staff when their deal falls through. It causes all sorts of angst, mental health issues, and everything else. So we have to solve it, and we can solve it. We can. That's the real shame of it for me. We don't have to make the market bigger. If we reduce the fall through rate, the end result in terms of the pound notes floating around in the industry goes significantly up. The same as reducing the transaction time, of course. It's the same. The two are intrinsically linked.
Okay, boys and girls. Now we have this. We're now going on to look at some stats. Not going to spend too long on this, but those of you who are data geeks might like this. So these are the average numbers, and we've done some conditional formatting on the spreadsheet, which means green is good and red is bad. And you can generally see as the weeks have been going up from left to right, things have been getting better nationally.
Of course they have, because we've washed out the old clients with old expectations. We've been able to communicate with those that are being able to move expectations. We've got rid of the ones that these expectations can't change. We're bringing in new sellers under new environments, and we're also seeing a reduction in the cost of actual borrowing. Forget the interest rate, the cost of borrowing is starting to change positively. So all of those things, slightly reduced house prices brings buyers into play. Interest rates on the actual fixed rate money coming down, that brings buyers back into play. The collapse that caused the red in the first place, that was predicted and affected public opinion, has not happened. So the public are now seeing the truth and the reality, so they're reacting and responding.
Let's now move on and look at some regions, and we start off with Inner London. So Inner London is classed as the N postcode, NW postcode, SE postcode, SW postcode, West postcode, and the E postcodes, and the central ones. Okay, and you can quite clearly see here. Now this is the bit that's a little bit scary. Is you can see on this line here, Inner London new instruction price. The average for this, Ian, in Inner London on the last 6 weeks has been 965,000, whilst the stuff that's actually selling in Inner London, the average is 798, which is a difference of, now I'm going to have to take the averages of those. It's not going to be exactly right, but it's nearly 21%.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that I see the issue there, other than the fact that look, I mean, London's a very unusual market because you've got a very large portion of it that none of this matters to them. They are so wealthy that they live in a very, very different set of rules and credit crunch and interest rates.
Okay, but that's prime London, Ian. You know,
yeah.
telling Barbara in Hendon in NW4, she ain't, you know, that's still classed as Inner London.
Yeah, but you're still talking about people that have extreme equity, probably, depending on how long they've been in this part of the world. They've experienced great big jumps in house prices. They are affected by the pebble in the pond of the prime central London pebble. They're much closer to the ripple of that. But the reason their prices are really high is because they're close to prime central London, which is Uber prices. And as that market does its thing, the effect, the nuclear effect in and around, you know, and I operate in some of these areas with clients. But I'm trying to calculate why, or in my head trying to understand, if the listed price is one and the sale price is the other. This isn't people reducing their prices by this amount of money.
No. So if you look on this second line here, Inner London new instruction, that is the average asking price of all the new instructions coming on that week.
Yeah.
And then Inner London sold subject to contract. So the 842 figure, and obviously it changes as you go. That is the asking price of the property when it went sale agreed. We obviously don't know what it's sold for, but but at least we know what the asking price was when it went sold.
Yeah, and you are going to see reductions in prices. The areas that saw the biggest rises will see the biggest reductions in the main. Certainly outside of the M25, but it's such an eclectic mix, London. It's got, it's very ethnically diverse. It's got very, very diverse, from one end of the spectrum, you've got very, very wealthy people, even in outer London. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got extreme poverty. There is such extremes within the London marketplace.
Interestingly, when we actually go and look at Bracknell, which is going to be what we look at, we can actually drill down to postcode district level and see what's selling and what's selling and what's coming on the market. So again, we've got the facility now.
Yeah.
So you're aware, all these stats are provided by 20EA. They have not paid me to do these stats, but it's the source where I get the information from. You can get your own information for your own town using their insights platform. Do not mention my name because I'm not paid to mention it. The deal is they give me the stats and I share them with you. Let's move on and talk about outer London. Now, look at the difference. Look at again, if we're talking about the difference between listings and sales, that black line at the bottom, Ian, that's central London. Hold on, where we go, Inner London, where the gap is 20%. And then you go and look at outer London, which is anything over, so you've got the IG postcodes, you've got the Croydon postcodes, so stuff that's still within the M25 and a little bit outside M25. And again, this market, I mean, look, the outer London market it's a brilliant market at the moment.
Yeah, well, because it's a desirable area. You got workflow, and a little bit of values returned to the marketplace. People who previously couldn't afford it are now seeing that the gap between theirs and this has shrunk a little bit. So, hardly surprising.
Right. So let's just whiz through the graphs. And anyone watching this on YouTube, you can pause it and you can, the brilliant thing here is you can see what's happening in your region, see what's happening to percentages, and then apply it to you and your town. So let's now go to the southeast and the southwest. Remember, green is good, red is bad. And, you know, let's have a look. The number of sales in the southeast is building up. The number of sales in the southwest is building up. The number of instructions is building up. You know, this is good stuff. And again, let's look at the percentages of difference between listing and sale price, which is a number which is very close to my heart. There isn't that much gap. That's why, as I said, take London out, inner London out, and things are flying at the moment.
Yeah, they're pretty. Flying is probably not the description that I would give. I mean,
Okay.
they are positive and they are starting to gain momentum, which suggests that flying is only around the corner.
Okay, probably I was a little bit. I don't want to get shot by Charlie Landing, bless him, love to bits. They're not flying. They're doing okay. Should we agree on that? Okay.
I think they're doing significantly better than the doom glumbers would want us to believe. I think that the numbers are starting to move in a direction where optimism is replacing fear, both with the buyers and the estate agency profession. And I think we've got a lot of reasons to be confident these numbers will continue to show more green in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, so there's your Wales and your West Midlands for all you Welsh and Black Country people. Yorkshire and Humber, again, fall throughs, a bit of an uplift there on sale fall throughs there on this number here, but everything else seems to be going in the right direction with Yorkshire. Scotland, again, Scotland, law to itself, and again, the way Scotland does tend to skew the figures slightly. They're doing okay. Let's go look at the northeast, the northwest, the northern powerhouse, as they say. Interestingly, the gap between the listing price and the sale price has got a little bit bigger this week, but again, not massive numbers. But again, look how the new listing price has been going up slightly in the northeast, but the sale price has actually been going down. Interesting there. So keep an eye on that one, my northeast estate agency friends, and northwest again doing quite well on that one. But again, keep an eye on what's actually selling. Again, Ian, you just jump in at any time. East Midlands, obviously centre of the universe is Grantham, as we all know, the G-Town, the Tham, and again, very, very good here, east of England as well, where Andy Overman is, bless you, the king of East Anglia. And again, just basically all good stuff there. Any comments before we move on and look at Bracknell?
I think the only comment that might be starting to be developed, and I've started to hear in certain circles, is that possibly slightly better off areas are faring slightly better than very, very impoverished areas. So I think you're seeing more green where there is probably a higher income per capita in a specific demographic versus those where there's a very low or even very difficult circumstances. So I think we are seeing a bit of that. But in general terms, take London out of the equation, possibly take Scotland out of the equation. We are seeing the green shoots of a market that is perfectly workable, perfectly pliable, and very, very positive.
Just make sure you list them right. Vendor contact and vendor management once a month by flow saying, how are you doing? Ain't good enough, is it anymore? I find it strange. Why aren't valuers very good at vendor management, Ian? I mean, obviously not in your firms, obviously, but some
of them are, some of them aren't. Well, I think partly because they haven't had to do it for 3 years because the relationship was so short that it was sort of listed, sold, gone. The real problem was the sale progression piece. That's where the relationship was trying to get the bloody thing through, and that lasted forever. I think naturally it's two different skill sets, isn't it? One requires that fast, confident approach, and the other one is more detailed and analytical. And it's very rare that you get the two in tune. However, customer care or vendor care, whatever you want to call it, isn't, hi, how are you doing? It's an assessment of what needs to happen to move the property to sold. And that might need some tough love. It might need some difficult conversations. It might need some evidence. It might need face-to-face. It might need some gentle persuasion. So, if people think that vendor care is just about keeping people happy so they don't disinstruct you, that's just wrong. Of course, you've got to have the right bedside manner. Of course, you've got to have the customer at the center of your journey and the center of your focus and the center of your positioning. But keeping a vendor at the wrong price through fear of offending them is about the worst customer service model you could ever have.
Absolutely spot on. Right. Should we go to Bracknell?
Yeah, go on, let's go. It's next to me.
Right then. Okay, so we are now on the 20 EA Insights platform, and we're going to start going through this. So let us go and have a look at Bracknell, which is RG12. So we'll just have to wait for it to be kicked in, and we'll pull this in. I'm going to have a look. Let's go RG. And it is, there we go, RG12 and 42. So Romans are in right. So if you look in the top left-hand corner, new instructions. So let's just see what's been happening to Romans and their market share. Pretty stable, around 20%, aren't they?
Of listings, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's go and have a look at Sears. Wow. They've been dropping. Wonder why that is. Anyway, we're not here to comment. Sorry, we're not. Well, you can jump in if you want. There's Prospect, but amazing how they bump up and down between 10 and 20% there. I know that, you know,
maybe a bit of manipulation of portal juggling, but I don't know. But so that seems too jagged to me. It doesn't seem a correct statistic.
Okay.
Click on
Duncan Yardley.
Know them well.
So,
Great
yeah.
business.
Chancellors.
Can't keep their staff. That'll give you some indication of what's going on there. Sorry for anyone in Chancellors that's hearing this, but it's the truth.
Avocado.
A different model. It's a self-employed model, so one or two listings make a huge difference. It's not a fair graph to judge them by that.
But again, I mean, remember, these are not, look at the numbers down the left-hand side, 3 or 4%. David Cliff, you know, much smaller. So
David Cliff, isn't it? David Cliff's not even in Bracknell. So the top four are the guys that are doing it. Right. But this is of listings, though, isn't it?
This is of listings. And what I do find interesting is this. Look at this massive gap here. I mean, this is don't see this often, where you have, you know, the top 3 or 4, and then there is like a chasm between the next market share. Obviously,
the really interesting stat. The really interesting stat there is that the top 3 have got multiple offices, and the 4th one has only got 1.
Covering Bracknell.
Yeah, Romans have got Warfield and Bracknell. Sears have got a Jennings Park, and Bracknell, Jennings Park being a part of Bracknell. Prospects have got Warfield and Bracknell. So there's two offices covering the same patch. So by far the most prolific agent in Bracknell is Duncan Yardley. Because
his costs are much lower. Because obviously, if you've got 2 offices, you need 2 right moves and 2 this and 2 that and 2 lots of stuff.
I would guarantee that the headcount per income is far better in that business than it is in the others. I also think if you do sales, it probably closes up a little bit.
Okay, here's the sales.
Yeah, so they've gone from 12% of the listings to 15% of the sales.
So we'll just flick back between the 2. So Duncan, 12%, as you say, on sales, and then 15% on sold. Then at Sears, 17% on sale, and 15% on new instructions. Prospect, 14% on new instructions, and 18% on sales. Interesting. Are you ready to move now? Again, what is quite nice here, we're not going to bore the national people to death here, but you can actually see which agent and what price range they go for.
I think Bracknell is pretty a good barometer for the UK. I mean, okay, it's in the southeast, so but it is a pretty wide town. It's got, you know, extremes at both ends of the property sector. It's got Ascot on one side. It's a very good barometer. When I was at Romans, we used to look at Bracknell's numbers as a really good barometer for the market, because it was just okay. It was in the centre of our world, but it was also pretty much a quintessential town that was nearly a city. But you know, they are seeing, in general terms, more properties coming up for sale in the RG postcodes, and they're seeing a slow but definite return to sales volumes.
Okay.
They've had to adjust prices to get there.
Okay, so this graph here shows you the average stock in each month. So the red is 23, the dark blue is 22, and the bluey color, turquoisey teal color is 21. And you can quite clearly see that there was a reduction in January. So January 21, 930 properties available for sale. And then that she dropped down in Bracknell to 539, but now we're back up to 790. So you can see that there is an uplift in the number of stock in Bracknell compared to, and as you can see here, it's been growing since the summer of last year, because that blue line has been moving up. Right, keep talking whilst I go and move on and look at some other great stuff that we can actually look. Now, this is where we're going to start getting into the really meaty stuff here, and talk about. So hold on a second. There we go. So just keep filling, Ian, while I.
You want me to keep filling? You want me to keep talking about the market? I mean, I think agents should be really, really confident. I think they should be, but not complacent. I think they should be confident, but they should also be confident in delivering whatever message needs to be delivered to the consumer to get their property sold. If the consumer doesn't get that, if the homeowner doesn't get or understand that message, then losing an instruction that's wrong is not a problem. It really isn't a problem. But if you mute and you do nothing and you just allow your stock to bumble along, some of it selling, some of it not selling, I think you're probably in for a tough old time.
Right, we're back again, and now we've got, now this is a particularly favourite graph of mine, and this shows you how well and how efficient an estate agent is, okay? So what we have done, what they've done is, this is a rolling 12-month, so basically from today, looking back for the last 12 months, okay? And this is a bit of a geeky chart, but I'm going to explain it for you, Ian, and everyone that's watching in terms of what's happening. So in the last 12 months, Romans have put on 455 properties and sold of it to contract 314. Those are obviously separate properties, because some of those would have been sold just as a year came in or whatever. Yeah. Basically, this is so you've got the number of new instructions here. So in Bracknell, in these two postcodes, 2,426, and this is the market share of the sold subject to contracts, okay? But this is where the magic happens, okay? I want you to look at exchanged and withdrawn. This is the true magic, okay? Forget what's come on the market. In the last 12 months, what all have happened is, if you think about the sales, you've got the stuff coming in at the top, and you've got the stuff coming in out at the bottom. If it comes out the bottom, it's either exchanged or it's leaving your estate agency. I'm not talking about falling through, because if it falls through, it tends to come back on the market with you and stay in the funnel. Okay, this is just, it leaves because it exchanges, or it leaves because it withdraws. Okay, you got that. This is these two here. Yeah. So what's happened is this: for every property that Romans have put onto the market. For every property that has left Romans books in the last 12 months, they've exchanged on 67.4% of those properties. The other 32.6%, because you had the two up there, 100%, have been withdrawn. Prospect, 80%. Duncan Yardley, 76%. Sears, 69%. Surely your Duncan Yardley need to be saying, when they're up against Romans, that you have a much greater chance of actually getting the property sold.
Oh, I'm sure they would. I mean, of course, and prospects would be in the same boat. They're going to point to the statistics that tell their journey. Perverse to that, though, I'd also be honest enough to say that if your withdrawn rate is too low, then you're probably not managing your stock correctly. So perversely, I don't think a very low withdrawn number is unless your sales percentage is incredibly high. But I think those numbers for all those agents, Romans included, are pretty good. You know, 30% of people traditionally change their mind. There's not a lot Romans or anyone can do about that. You know, so there's some pretty good. You know, the market there is pretty good. You know, they're pretty active. But again, you've got four real guys going at it, hammer and tong, fighting that market out. It's a big market. You can do the maths. I think you'll find it's about 6 million quid worth of commission, but the rest don't. They just don't figure. They just
how many of these are Bracknell-based agents?
well, chancellors are Avocado. Obviously, have a Bracknell man or woman. Hatton Home, but to be fair to them, they're brand new and they're a very good firm. They've only been in Bracknell a few short months, so that doesn't really matter. Hart are in Bracknell. Keith Gibbs are in Binfield, which is part of Bracknell. Bloor Homes is a new home site. So and Strike, we all know who they are. Okay. And Knight Franks aren't in Bracknell. They'll be covering that from sort of Ascot direction, I would imagine.
Interesting. The graph at the bottom is quite nice. This is what you are now in terms of average listing price and volume of instructions, and just see where the different balls go depending on the last 12 months, the 12 months.
My God, that's the most complicated graph I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. You just have to trust me on that one. But basically the move, so look at Sears. Last year, they put a lot more properties on the market. So Sears have actually dropped in terms of listings by 25.8%. Purple Bricks 37%. Prospect -4%, but Duncan Yardley up by 16.3%. These are pretty decent numbers actually. Let's just see what Romans have done. Romans are only up by 2.71%. Prospect -4%. Sears down 25%. Were Sears obviously a little bit higher then, were they? Were they up a bit more at the pecking order? Looks like Duncan Yardley's giving them a run for their money.
Yes, I mean obviously Hart, Chancellors, they're both Bracknell agents, so that's quite encouraging from their perspective. David Cliff, the numbers are irrelevant because he's a Wokingham agent and a very good one, and he commands a very good market share there. So one or two properties wouldn't change his growth significantly. But yeah, as I said, I think I've got to be a little bit. I've got to declare here. My son works for Duncan Yardley, and I coach and mentor their business, so they're close to my heart. But hopefully, you can see from those graphs that it's working. But they're a good business. But in Bracknell, you've got 3 or 4 very good businesses. The stats look great. They all make good money. They fight hammer and tong. Good luck to them. 1 month it'll be one on top. Next month it'll be another on top. Some really good agency going on there, and they are not. Well, certainly I can speak for Duncan Yardley. They are not behind last year in any measurement. In terms of financial performance.
Yes. Right. Are you ready for the next screen? Okay. Right then. Okay. And
I've got 6 minutes, Chris, just so you know. I've got 6 minutes.
You've got 6 minutes. Right. Hold on a second.
6 minutes.
Right. Well, you're going to be late for this one because you're going to love this. And boys and girls, we just picked this. Before we switched on, I said, where do you want to go? It was between here and Wokingham. Right. Here we go. Okay. This particular one here, original listing price overvalued. That's the difference between what 20EA thought the property was worth, which is almost like a Valpal figure, versus what it came on the market. So everyone is slightly overvaluing here, which is not a problem, okay? Because again, that's been the market for the last 12 months. Then the price achieved, basically the price achieved is from what it came on the market for versus what you actually sold it, okay? So therefore, Romans, now you could say, well, that's all percentages. That's all voodoo magic. Let's cut to the chase. If everyone put a house on the market at £450,000, what would these agents actually sell it for? Okay, if the house is worth 450, what would they sell it for? Here we go. Romans would sell it for 455, Prospect 462, Duncan Yardley 464, Sears 457. According to 20EA. So all those 4 agents go up against each other, and this is a statistics which show that basically Duncan Yardley will get, if Duncan Yardley were up against Romans, Duncan Yardley could turn around and say, I'll get you £9,000 more, and here's your proof. Pretty impressive.
Yes, they could. Yeah, but it does assume that the 20EA valuation of the property is correct in the first place.
Okay, but then if they're basing it all the AVMs on all the same properties, it's a pretty much level playing field. Again, I'm not trying to sell you this, mate. I'm just trying to say this is what they say. Now, how you've got to be, I must stress to you, any agent looking at this.
It also says Hart would get 541,000 for it, which is just alarm bells to me, because that's, excuse my French, bollocks.
Okay.
So there's obviously some anomalies in there. But
there's going to be some anomalies. Okay.
The fact of the matter is, it does give an indication of where agents are valuing to win the instruction versus valuing to help you move. It does give you that clarity. It also gives you some insight into the likely cost of cheap V versus, because I know who the most expensive agent in Bracknell is, and I know that their fee might look expensive on paper, but the end result for the client will be much better off.
And there you go. That's that such information can help you get higher fees, which at the end of the day is what, coming back to what you said, Ian, is important, is that if they've got a smaller pie, you need to either get a bigger slice of it or actually put more cream on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really simple, guys. I think fewer people will move to charity, but grow your market share. Oh, sorry. And I don't think the number of agents you're going to compete with will change until the last half of this year. Then I think it will start to reduce. But you can't rely on that. So you either grow your share of the movers and the renters, the landlords, or you have to charge more for the privilege. My personal view would be to try a bit of both. Grab a bit of market share, charge a little bit more, and maybe find some ancillary products that you can charge for, like launch packs, EPCs, do a bit of add-on. And those agents that are good with great listers, they can charge more, they can convert at higher rates, they can get them on at the right price, they can thrive, they can move forward with good training, good mentoring, good systems and processes, and good morals. I mean, just good, simple moral conduct changes everything.
Ian, thank you for your time today. Boys and girls that have been watching this, I hope you can see why I said at the top of the show that Ian is extremely insightful. There's not many people I look up to in this industry, but Iain White is definitely one of them. Absolutely spot on guy, and with such insight. I'm both smoke up your arse, mate. You can buy me a pint next time I see you. You've been very insightful. We look forward to seeing you back probably in a 4 or 5 weeks' time, if you don't mind, Ian, with some more of your dry insight. No bullshit, as you say. Thank you for watching this. If anyone wants the slides from this show, there's a link in the YouTube link. I ask that they're not shared on social media, just for your personal benefit. Ian, thank you for your time today. And finally,
thank you, Chris.
You watching. Thank you.
Good luck to all the agents out there. Thank you. Bye, Christopher.